Did you know medieval queens weren't just about political power and royal weddings? What if I told you some of history's most powerful women, ruling between the 12th and 15th centuries, shaped the very art forms of their age? Number 13. Margaret of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Margaret was born in 1353. The daughter of King Valdemar IV of Denmark, she became Queen of Norway in 1363. Upon her marriage to King Haakon VI, and then Queen of Denmark in 1375. After her son Olaf died, she was recognized as Regent of Denmark in 1387, and then Norway in 1388. In 1389, she defeated Albert of Sweden, securing the Swedish crown. Her political brilliance led to the creation of the Kalmar Union in 1397, uniting the free Scandinavian kingdoms under a single monarch. While her reign was primarily marked by shrewd political maneuvering and the consolidation of power, Margaret understood the importance of outward displays of authority and devotion, which often translated into significant artistic commissions. Her patronage was largely focused on religious institutions and monumental architecture serving both spiritual and political purposes. During her long and influential regency, many churches and monasteries benefited from her support, often leading to the commissioning of new altarpieces, liturgical vessels, and architectural enhancements. For example, the Vadstena Abbey in Sweden, a significant Brigittine monastery, received continued royal patronage during her time. Although Saint Bridget herself was the primary founder, Margaret's support ensured the monastery's continued artistic and architectural development. This included the construction of new chapels, the embellishment of existing structures, and the acquisition of valuable religious artifacts. While specific artists are often not named in medieval Scandinavian records for commissions of this scale, the master masons, sculptors, painters, and goldsmiths involved in these projects were highly skilled professionals. These artisans were instrumental in translating Margaret's vision, or the vision of the church leaders she supported, into tangible works of art. Construction of a major church, for instance, required a master mason who could design the structure, oversee its building, and direct numerous stonecutters, carpenters, and glaziers. These were the legendary artists of their time, responsible for the magnificent cathedrals and monastic complexes that still stand. Margaret also supported the production of illuminated manuscripts, particularly those related to religious texts and chronicles. Scribes and illuminators working in the royal and ecclesiastical scriptoria produced devotional books and historical records for her court. These manuscripts were often adorned with intricate borders, detailed miniatures, and elaborate initial letters. Colors used were vibrant, made from ground minerals and plant dyes, often accented with gold leaf, creating dazzling visual effects on parchment. These books served not only as tools for prayer or historical documentation, but also as symbols of royal and ecclesiastical wealth and learning. Furthermore, Margaret's court, like all medieval royal courts, would have employed skilled textile artists. Weavers created luxurious tapestries and embroidered hangings for the royal residences and chapels. These textiles depicted religious scenes, heraldic devices, or narrative sequences, providing both warmth and visual splendor. These works often required extensive labor, with multiple artisans working together for months or even years on a single large piece, using fine threads of wool, silk, and sometimes silver or gold. Margaret's patronage contributed to the visual culture of the Scandinavian kingdoms, reinforcing her authority and the legitimacy of the Kalmar Union. The churches and religious artifacts she supported became enduring symbols of her devotion and her commitment to the spiritual welfare of her united realms. The master craftsmen employed on these projects were at the forefront of medieval artistic innovation in their region, creating works that were admired and emulated across the Nordic lands. Her investments in these artistic and architectural endeavors left a lasting mark on the material heritage of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, reflecting the power and reach of the unified monarchy she so meticulously forged. The scale of these commissions speaks volumes about the resources she commanded and her understanding of art as a tool for public display and spiritual expression. Number 12. Elizabeth Woodville. Elizabeth Woodville was a fascinating figure born around 1437 to a relatively minor noble family. Her marriage to King Edward IV in 1464 was a scandalous affair, as she was a commoner and a widow with 2 sons. Despite this, she became Queen of England, and her reign, though tumultuous due to the Wars of the Roses, saw significant developments in arts and culture, particularly in the emerging field of printing. Elizabeth's patronage of William Caxton, who introduced the printing press to England, was a pivotal moment in the history of communication. William Caxton set up his printing press in Westminster, near the royal court, around 1476. Elizabeth Woodville quickly recognized the potential of this new technology, which allowed for the mass production of books with consistent quality, a stark contrast to the laborious and often inconsistent process of hand copying. She became an early and influential patron of Caxton, commissioning books directly from him and encouraging other nobles to do the same. This patronage was not just a passing interest. It was a strategic investment in a new artistic and intellectual medium. One of the most notable commissions from Elizabeth was the printing of dictées, or séanges, of the Philosophes. In 1477. This was the first book printed in England by Caxton that carried a date, and it was translated from French by Anthony Woodville, Earl Rivers, Elizabeth's brother. The fact that the Queen's brother translated it and the Queen herself supported its printing signals a direct royal endorsement of Caxton's work and the new technology. The book itself was printed on vellum, a high-quality material, and featured a title page in colophon which provided details about its production. The letter forms were carefully chosen, and the layout was designed to be legible and visually appealing, mimicking the aesthetics of fine manuscripts. Elizabeth also commissioned other works, supporting Caxton's fledgling enterprise and helping to establish a market for printed books in England. Her patronage extended beyond simply buying books. It was about fostering an entirely new industry that employed designers, typefounders, pressmen, and binders. These individuals, though working with machines, were skilled artisans, effectively artists in a new medium. They had to design new typefaces, arrange pages aesthetically, and sometimes even include woodcut illustrations, which were themselves works of art, carved by skilled engravers. The books produced by Caxton under Elizabeth's patronage were not just for reading. They were also objects of beauty and status. They featured robust bindings, often of leather with metal clasps, and their pages were printed with dark, even ink. While many early printed books did not have the elaborate illuminations of traditional manuscripts, they offered a new kind of aesthetic, one of uniformity and mechanical precision, combined with careful craftsmanship. The woodcut illustrations, though simpler than painted miniatures, were bold and clear, often depicting scenes from classical literature or fables, bringing visual narratives to a wider audience than ever before. Elizabeth's support helped to popularize printed books among the English aristocracy, demonstrating that these new creations were worthy of royal attention. Her choice to patronize Caxton meant that literary works, historical accounts, and even religious texts could be disseminated more widely and efficiently. This act of patronage represents a moment where an established art form, book production, was being transformed by a revolutionary technology. Elizabeth Woodville played a direct role in that transformation, ensuring that the work of these new artists of the printing press found a home and a market in England. Her commissions were not just single purchases. They were foundational contributions to a new artistic and intellectual landscape, solidifying the role of the printing press in English culture for centuries to come. The books she commissioned were tangible evidence of her vision and her support for the burgeoning world of mechanically reproduced art. Number 11. Isabella I of Castile. Isabella I of Castile, born in 1451, was a pivotal figure in Spanish history, reigning as Queen of Castile from 1474 until her death in 1504. Her marriage to Ferdinand II of Aragon united two of the most powerful kingdoms on the Iberian Peninsula, laying the groundwork for modern Spain. Beyond her political and military achievements, including the conclusion of the Reconquista and the sponsorship of Christopher Columbus's voyages, Isabella was an immense patron of the arts. Her court was a vibrant center for painting, sculpture, architecture, and manuscript production, attracting artists from across Europe. Isabella's artistic patronage was driven by deep religious piety and a desire to reflect the glory and power of her newly unified kingdom. She commissioned grand architectural projects, perhaps the most iconic being the Capilla Real, or Royal Chapel, in Granada, intended as the burial place for the Catholic monarchs. Construction began in 1505, shortly after her death, but Isabella herself meticulously planned its design and purpose. The chapel's intricate Gothic architecture, with its soaring vaults and elaborate ornamentation, was a testament to the skill of master architects like Juan Guaz, who worked on other royal projects during her reign, and Enrique Egas, who largely oversaw its construction. The decorative elements inside, such as the elaborate reja, grille, and the retablo, altarpiece, involved numerous sculptors, carvers, and painters, creating a unified artistic statement. Her private collection of paintings was extensive and remarkably diverse, suiting her refined taste and access to the finest artists of her time. Isabella was a major collector of Flemish painting, including works by masters like Hans Memling and Dirk Bouts. Her collection also famously included works by Hieronymus Bosch, such as The Garden of Earthly Delights, which was listed in her family's possession after her death. While Bosch himself was not directly in her employ, her ownership and appreciation of such groundbreaking works made her a significant figure in the dissemination and collection of late medieval and early Renaissance painting. She often sent agents to the Low Countries to acquire specific pieces, recognizing the superior craftsmanship and imitative techniques of the Flemish schools. Isabella also actively supported native Spanish artists. Pedro Berruguete was a prominent painter in her court, known for his portraits and religious altarpieces. He combined elements of Flemish realism with Italian Renaissance influences, producing works for various churches and palaces. Under Isabella's patronage, one notable commission was the series of paintings for the Church of San Salvador in Avila, which showcased his skill in depicting religious narratives with dramatic flair and detailed realism. Isabella also commissioned sculptors for various projects, including effigies for royal tombs and decorative elements for churches and palaces. The tomb sculptures of her parents in Miraflores Charterhouse, executed by Gil de Silo, are examples of the exquisite craftsmanship patronized by the royal family. Reflecting Isabella's artistic preferences, beyond painting and sculpture, Isabella was a strong patron of book production. While she commissioned traditional illuminated manuscripts, she also enthusiastically embraced the new technology of the printing press. Just like her contemporary Elizabeth Woodville, she established royal printing presses and encouraged the publication of various texts, from religious treatises to historical chronicles. This support for printing meant that books became more accessible and the art of typography and woodcut illustration flourished. The printers, type designers, and engravers working under her patronage were essential to the spread of knowledge and visual culture in her realm. Her patronage extended to the decorative arts as well. She commissioned exquisite textiles, including tapestries that depicted historical events or religious narratives, and luxurious ecclesiastical vestments, embroidered with gold and silk. These were produced by master weavers and embroiderers, often organized in royal workshops or through external commissions. Isabella's palaces were adorned with these rich hangings, reflecting the opulence and artistic sophistication of her court. The sheer volume and quality of the art produced under Isabella's influence marked a golden age for the arts in Spain, establishing a legacy that would continue to define the country's cultural identity for centuries. Her vision transformed the artistic landscape of her kingdoms, making her one of the most significant royal patrons of her era. Number 10. Anne of Brittany. Anne of Brittany, born in 1477, was Duchess of Brittany, and through 2 marriages, Queen Consort of France. She married King Charles VIII of France in 1491, and after his death, married his successor, King Louis XII, in 1499. Anne was an intelligent, politically astute, and fiercely independent ruler, who passionately defended the autonomy of Brittany. Beyond her political endeavors, she was a sophisticated and influential patron of the arts, particularly illuminated manuscripts, tapestry, and music, ushering in an era of refined taste in the French court at the cusp of the Renaissance. Anne's most famous artistic commissions were her magnificent books of hours, personal prayer books that were highly fashionable among the aristocracy. These were not just functional religious texts, but extraordinary works of art produced by the finest illuminators of the day. Her Great Hours of Anne of Brittany, completed around 1503 to 1508, is considered one of the masterpieces of French manuscript illumination. It contains 49 large full-page miniatures and 337 borders that depict plants, insects, and small animals, all rendered with astonishing realism and detail. Principal artist for this work was Jean Bourdichon, a highly renowned illuminator of the French court. Bourdichon's work in Anne's Great Hours took aid his exceptional skill in depicting depth, light, and naturalism, pushing the boundaries of traditional manuscript painting. The miniatures portray biblical scenes and the lives of saints with rich colors, intricate gold details, and a sense of volume that anticipates the Renaissance. The borders in particular are a triumph of botanical illustration, depicting over 300 species with scientific accuracy, turning the pages into vibrant encyclopedias of the natural world. Each page was a testament to meticulous craftsmanship, requiring countless hours of work. By Bourdichon and his workshop assistants, who prepared the parchment, mixed pigments, applied gold leaf, and painted the intricate details. Another significant manuscript associated with Anne is her Hours of Anne of Brittany, sometimes known as the Tres Petites Heures of Anne of Brittany, a smaller, more intimate book. While less grand than the Great Hours, it also features exquisite illuminations, demonstrating Anne's consistent demand for high-quality artistic production. These books were not just for her private devotion. They were also symbols of her wealth, piety, and intellectual sophistication, often displayed to impress visitors to her court. Beyond manuscripts, Anne was a major patron of tapestry weavers. Large tapestries were essential for decorating medieval and early modern palaces and castles, providing warmth, acoustic dampening, and visual splendor. Anne commissioned numerous tapestries depicting historical narratives, mythological scenes, and heraldic motifs. These were monumental works, often several meters in length and height, requiring master weavers and their apprentices to work for years on a single piece. The designs were typically drawn by painters, then translated into cartoons for the weavers, who would meticulously interlace dyed wool and silk threads to create the images. The detail and vibrant colors of these tapestries were highly valued, and they served as portable expressions of royal power and taste. Anne also fostered musical arts at her court. She was a skilled musician herself, playing the clavichord and spinet, and she maintained a substantial musical establishment. Her court employed numerous singers, instrumentalists, and composers, who performed for her enjoyment and for court ceremonies. This patronage supported the creation of new musical compositions and ensured that the rich tradition of polyphonic music flourished in France. The musicians were highly regarded, artists whose performances were integral to courtly life and entertainment. Anne of Brittany's patronage exemplified the refined tastes of the late medieval and early Renaissance French court. Her commissions not only preserved, but also significantly advanced the artistic techniques of her time. The artists she supported, like Jean Bourdichan, were the leading figures in their fields, and their works for her became enduring legacies, celebrated for their beauty, detail, and artistic innovation. Her dedication to these artistic endeavors made her court a beacon of cultural achievement, leaving a lasting mark on French art history. Number 9. Yoland of Aragon. Yoland of Aragon, born in 1384, was a woman of extraordinary intellect, political acumen, and cultural sophistication. As the daughter of John I of Aragon and wife of Louis II, Duke of Anjou, she became a powerful figure in 15th century France. She was the mother of King René I of Naples, another renowned patron of the arts. Yolande was a key player in the 100 Years' War, particularly in supporting the Dauphin Charles, later Charles VII, and Joan of Arc. Beyond her political influence, Yolande was a dedicated patron of the arts, particularly illuminated manuscripts, tapestries, and literature, establishing a court known for its refined cultural environment. Yolande's interest in books was profound, and she amassed an impressive library. She commissioned numerous illuminated manuscripts, recognizing them not just as sources of knowledge, but as works of art that reflected her status and intellect. These commissions supported master scribes and illuminators who worked in her ducal court, often based in her residences such as Angers or Saumur. The manuscripts she commissioned were meticulously crafted, featuring high-quality vellum, vibrant pigments, and intricate miniatures. One of the most notable aspects of her patronage involved the production of literary works and their artistic presentation. While specific named illuminators working directly for Yolande are sometimes difficult to pinpoint with certainty, the quality of the manuscripts produced for her and her son, King René, indicates the involvement of highly skilled workshops. These workshops would employ several artists, each specializing in different aspects of book production, from the initial sketching of scenes to the delicate application of gold leaf and the final detailed brushwork. For example, chronicles and historical texts were often produced for her, adorned with miniature illustrations that depicted historical events or significant figures. These illustrations served as visual aids to the text, making the narratives more engaging and memorable. The artists employed were adept at creating compelling compositions, using rich colors and expressive figures to convey the drama of the stories. The margins of these books were often decorated with delicate floral motifs, heraldic devices, or charming drolleries, adding to the visual richness of the pages. Yolande also played a significant role in commissioning tapestries, a highly prized art form in the late Middle Ages. Tapestries were essential for decorating large halls and chambers, providing both warmth and visual spectacle. They often depicted complex narrative cycles, religious scenes, or allegorical themes. Yolande, known for her lavish lifestyle and courtly displays, would have invested heavily in such monumental textile art. These tapestries were products of master weavers who translated complex designs from painters' cartoons into woven masterpieces, using thousands of threads of wool and silk. The scale and detail of these works meant that a single tapestry could take years to complete, employing multiple artisans for its creation. Her court was also a center for literary activity. While she was not a poet herself, Yolande fostered an environment where writers and scholars thrived. Her patronage meant that scribes would copy texts and illuminators would illustrate them, thereby preserving and disseminating knowledge and stories. The works produced included historical chronicles, chivalric romances, and religious texts, all of which contributed to the intellectual and cultural life of her court. Yolande's patronage was instrumental in establishing the House of Anjou as a major cultural force in 15th century France. Her influence on her son, King René, who became one of the most celebrated patrons of the arts in the century, was profound. She set a standard for artistic excellence that her son would further cultivate. The artists she supported, though often unnamed, in the historical record, were integral to creating the visual splendor of the ducal court, producing works that continue to fascinate art historians for their beauty and historical significance. Her investment in these artistic endeavors ensured a legacy of refined taste and cultural achievement for her dynasty. Number 8. Isab of Bavaria. Isab of Bavaria, born around 1370, became Queen Consort of France in 1385 upon her marriage to King Charles VI. Her reign was marked by the escalating 100 Years' War and Charles VI's increasingly severe bouts of mental illness, which led to periods of regency and political instability. Despite the turbulent political climate, Isabel was a significant patron of the arts, particularly of luxurious objects, illuminated manuscripts, and courtly attire, reflecting her opulent lifestyle and the sophisticated tastes of the late medieval French court. Isabeau had a deep appreciation for the finer things, and her patronage was heavily focused on luxury arts. She commissioned exquisite jewelry, intricate gold and silver work, and richly embroidered garments. These commissions supported highly skilled goldsmiths, jewelers, and embroiderers who worked in the royal workshops or were retained by the court. These artisans were masters of their craft, capable of creating delicate filigree, setting precious stones, and executing complex patterns in gold and silver thread. Her dresses were legendary for their extravagance, made from the finest silks and velvets, often adorned with pearls and gemstones, setting fashion trends across Europe. Her most significant artistic patronage was in the realm of illuminated manuscripts. Isabeau maintained a substantial library, and she regularly commissioned new books. These included devotional texts, such as books of hours, as well as secular works like chivalric romances and historical chronicles. The artists involved were the leading illuminators in Paris, the undisputed center of manuscript production at the time. These workshops employed numerous scribes, parchment preparers, and painters who meticulously created each volume. One prominent illuminator who worked for the French court during her time, and whose work reflects the lavish style patronized by Isabeau, was the master of the Parlement d'International Gothic style. This style, characterized by its elegant lines, rich colors, intricate details, and realistic depiction of nature, was a hallmark of courtly art. The manuscripts commissioned by Isabeau would feature full-page miniatures, borders teeming with flora and fauna, and elaborate initial letters, often incorporating her personal emblems or heraldic devices. The use of gold leaf was extensive, adding a dazzling effect to the pages. The grandeurs of the Duc de Berry, while primarily commissioned by her brother-in-law, Jean, Duc de Berry, Shanks the artistic pinnacle of the period that Isabeau also patronized. Her own commissions shared a similar aesthetic, demanding the highest level of artistic skill. The artists employed were adept at rendering human figures with graceful poses, depicting architectural details with precision, and creating atmospheric landscapes. Their ability to translate complex narratives into visually compelling images made them highly sought after by the royal family and other wealthy patrons. Isabeau also commissioned tapestries, which were essential for decorating the vast halls of royal residences. These tapestries depicted scenes from history, mythology, or allegories, and their intricate designs required the expertise of master weavers. The designs were often provided by court painters who would create large-scale cartoons that the weavers would follow thread by thread. The size and complexity of these works meant that they could take years to complete, making them extremely valuable and highly visible expressions of wealth and artistic taste. While her reign was fraught with political challenges, Isabeau of Bavaria's consistent patronage of luxurious arts provided significant employment for the most skilled artisans in France. Her commissions helped to define the aesthetic of the French court, characterized by its opulence, elegance, and refined craftsmanship. The works produced under her influence served not only as personal possessions, but also as powerful symbols of royal power and prestige, reflecting the sophisticated artistic environment that she cultivated to so pride. The artists she supported created enduring masterpieces that exemplify the beauty and complexity of late medieval French art. Number 7. Valentina Visconti. Valentina Visconti, born in 1371, was a prominent Italian noblewoman, daughter of Gian Galeazzo. Visconti, Duke of Milan. In 1389, she married Louis I, Duke of Orleans, brother of King Charles VI of France, and moved to the French court. Valentina was a sophisticated, intelligent, and cultured woman who brought the rich artistic traditions of Italy to France. She became a significant patron of the arts, particularly illuminated manuscripts, luxury, objects, and fashion, fostering a distinctive artistic environment at the ducal court of Orleans. Valentina was known for her love of books, and her personal library was extensive and renowned. She commissioned numerous illuminated manuscripts, making her one of the most important patrons of book arts in her era. Her commissions provided work for some of the finest scribes and illuminators in Paris, which was a major center for manuscript production. The manuscripts she ordered were often devotional texts, but also included secular literature, such as chivalric romances and poetry. A prime example of the type of exquisite work produced under her patronage are manuscripts that align with the international Gothic style known for its elegant lines, rich colors, and detailed realism. While specific artists directly employed by Valentina, the quality of the Hours of Louis d'Orléans, commissioned by her husband, but reflecting courtly taste, and other manuscripts associated with her circle suggest the involvement of master illuminators like the Boucicault master or the Limbard brothers, who were active in France at the time. These artists were celebrated for their ability to render intricate details, create a sense of depth, and incorporate naturalistic elements into their compositions. The miniatures in these manuscripts depicted vibrant scenes, often framed by elaborate borders, filled with intricate floral motifs, small animals, and heraldic devices. Colors were derived from precious pigments, and extensive use of gold leaf added a dazzling brilliance to the pages. The artists meticulously worked on each detail, from the delicate folds of drapery to the individual leaves on a tree, demonstrating their mastery of their craft. Valentina's commissions helped to define the luxurious and sophisticated aesthetic of ducal patronage. In France, beyond manuscripts, Valentina was a great connoisseur and patron of luxury objects. She commissioned exquisite jewelry made by master goldsmiths and jewelers, often featuring precious stones, set in intricate designs. Her fashion was also legendary. She was known for her lavish gowns and elaborate headdresses, which required the skills of expert tailors and embroiderers. These garments were often adorned with pearls, silks, and gold thread, making them works of art in themselves and setting trends throughout the European courts. The embroiderers, though often anonymous, were highly skilled artists who could create complex pictorial narratives or intricate patterns with needle and thread. Valentina also supported the production of decorative objects for her residences, such as tapestries and ornate furniture. Tapestries, woven by master weavers, provided warmth and visual splendor to the ducal palaces, often depicting historical or mythological themes. These were monumental works, requiring significant artistic input for their design and execution. Valentina Visconti's patronage was a testament to her refined taste and her desire to cultivate a culturally rich environment at the court of Orleans. She brought with her the sophisticated artistic influences of Milan, which blended with French traditions to create a unique aesthetic. The artists she supported, the though often part of larger workshops, were at the forefront of late medieval artistic innovation, creating exquisite pieces that reflected the wealth, power, and refined sensibilities of their patron. Her commissions left a lasting legacy of beautiful objects that continued to be admired for their artistic quality and historical significance. Number 6. Anne of Bohemia. Anne of Bohemia, born in 1366, became Queen Consort of England in 1382, upon her marriage to King Richard II. She was the daughter of Charles IV, Holy Roman Emperor and King of Bohemia, a highly cultured ruler who had made Prague a center of artistic and intellectual life. Anne brought with her a sophisticated taste and a strong appreciation for the arts, influencing the English court and facilitating artistic exchange between England and Bohemia. Her patronage, though not as extensively documented as some other queens, significantly contributed to the flourishing of a distinctive artistic style in England. Anne's influence on English art is most evident in the development of the soft style or International Gothic style, which was already gaining popularity in Bohemia and across continental Europe. The style was characterized by elegant flowing lines, delicate modeling, rich colors, and a heightened sense of naturalism in details. Anne likely brought artisans or artistic influences from Bohemia, exposing English craftsmen to new techniques and aesthetic preferences. This led to a more refined and graceful approach in painting, manuscript illumination, and sculpture. She was a patron of goldsmiths and master craftsmen who created exquisite jewelry, liturgical vessels, and decorative objects for the royal court and various religious institutions. These artisans, though often unnamed in historical records, were highly skilled in working with precious metals, enamels, and gemstones. Their creations were not just functional items, but intricate works of art, demonstrating delicate filigree, detailed engraving, and the precise setting of jewels. Anne's personal preferences for luxury items would have driven these commissions, providing substantial work for these artists. In terms of illuminated manuscripts, while no hours of Anne of Bohemia exist with her direct commission, the royal court scriptorium certainly produced books that reflect the artistic trends of her time. Scholars suggest that the artistic styles seen in Bohemian manuscripts were adopted and adapted by English illuminators, leading to a new richness in English book production. These manuscripts would feature more realistic figures, softer drapery, and a greater emphasis on individual expression. The artists involved were adept at using a wide palette of colors, often incorporating gold leaf for a shimmering effect, enhancing the visual impact of the religious and secular texts. Anne's influence can also be seen in the design and decoration of Westminster Abbey, particularly in the later additions and embellishments made during Richard II's reign. While the scale of the Abbey's rebuilding was immense and ongoing, Richard and Anne's patronage contributed to specific projects. These included the creation of a new nave and the construction of tomb effigies and chantries. The sculptors and masons involved in these projects would have incorporated the stylistic elements favored by the royal couple, leading to more refined and expressive sculptural works. For example, the tomb of Richard II and Anne of Bohemia itself, though completed after her death, reflects the refined craftsmanship and artistic sensibilities of the time, with its bronze effigies and intricate marble work. The Wilton diptych, a portable altarpiece depicting Richard II kneeling before the Virgin and Child, is often cited as a prime example of the International Gothic style in England. While the exact circumstances of its commission are debated, it undoubtedly reflects the artistic tastes of Richard II's court, a taste largely shaped by Anne's influence. Painting exhibits the characteristic elegance, soft modeling, and exquisite detail associated with the International Gothic style, suggesting the presence of highly skilled painters at the royal court. Anne of Bohemia's patronage, while not always linked to specific named artists, was instrumental in fostering a sophisticated artistic environment in England. Her cultural background and refined tastes encouraged the adoption of new styles and techniques from continental Europe, enriching the native English artistic tradition. The artisans she supported, from goldsmiths to illuminators, created works of art that embodied the beauty and elegance of the international Gothic style, leaving a lasting impact on English art. Her influence helped shape the visual landscape of Richard II's court, making it a place of artistic innovation and refinement. Number 5. Philippa of Hanwell. Philippa of Hanwell, born in 1314, became Queen Consort of England in 1328, upon her marriage to King Edward III. Her long and stable reign, spanning over 40 years, coincided with a period of significant growth for England, both politically and culturally. Philippa was known for her gentleness, wisdom, and active involvement in state affairs, but she was also a notable patron of literature, architecture, and the decorative arts, supporting artists and craftsmen who shaped the aesthetic of the burgeoning English court. Philippa was a great patron of chroniclers and writers, effectively commissioning literary artists to record the history of her time and to produce entertaining narratives. Jean Froissart, the famous chronicler of the 100 Years' War, spent time at Philippa's court and was directly encouraged by her. His chronicles provide invaluable insights into the events and personalities of the 14th century, including detailed descriptions of court life and chivalric endeavors. Froissart's work was a direct result of royal patronage, turning the recounting of history into an art form. Philippa supported his travels and writing, enabling him to gather information and produce his monumental work, which was meticulously copied and illustrated by scribes and illuminators. Her patronage extended. She established Queen's College, Oxford in 1341, a significant act of patronage in education and architecture. While the actual building work would have been overseen by master masons and architects, Philippa's initial funding and vision were crucial. These architects and masons were the leading construction artists of their time, designing and building the college's structures, including its chapel, library, and residential quarters. The intricate stone carving, stained glass windows, and timber work involved numerous specialized craftsmen, transforming raw materials into impressive architectural spaces. Philippa also commissioned various pieces of metalwork, including gold and silver plate for courtly use, and religious vessels for chapels. Goldsmiths and silversmiths were highly skilled artisans, creating intricate designs, often adorned with enamelwork and precious stones. These items were not merely utilitarian, they were symbols of royal wealth and piety, and each piece was a unique work of art. The workshops producing these items were often in London, and their master craftsmen were recognized for their precision and artistry. In terms of textiles, Philippa's court would have been a hub for the creation of luxurious garments, tapestries, and embroidered hangings. She employed embroiderers who created elaborate designs on robes, banners, and altar cloths. These embroiderers used fine threads of silk wool, and often gold and silver, to depict heraldic motifs, religious scenes, and decorative patterns. The artistry involved in producing these intricate textiles was highly valued, with each piece requiring immense labor and skill. For example, royal inventories list numerous richly embroidered pieces associated with her household, indicating continuous commissions for these textile artists. Philippa's influence on the aesthetic of her court was evident in the overall luxury and refinement she brought. Patronage of Froissart ensured that her era was well documented by a leading literary figure. Her support for Queen's College provided a lasting architectural and educational legacy. The various craftsmen she employed across different artistic disciplines, from stone carvers to textile embroiderers, were the legendary artists of their generation, shaping the visual and material culture of the English court during a period of rising national identity and power. Her consistent and thoughtful commissions provided crucial support for the arts, helping to foster a vibrant creative environment. Number 4. Elellanar of Provence. Elellanar of Provence, born around 1223, became Queen Consort of England in 1236 upon her marriage to King Henry III. Hailing from a culturally rich region of southern France, Eleanor brought with her a sophisticated taste for art, poetry, and continental fashions. Her reign, though sometimes turbulent due to political strife, saw extensive royal patronage of the arts, particularly in monumental architecture and decorative arts, most notably at Westminster Abbey, where she was a driving force behind its lavish refrain, forced behind its lavish rebuilding and embellishments. Eleanor was a devout patron of the rebuilding and redecoration of Westminster Abbey, a project that was a lifelong passion for her husband, Henry III, and which she actively supported. This immense undertaking required the sustained work of hundreds of master masons, sculptors, glaziers, painters, and other craftsmen over several decades. These individuals were the leading artists of their time in England, transforming the old Norman abbey into a magnificent Gothic masterpiece. She contributed significantly to the artistic details of the abbey. For instance, the renowned sculptor and master mason, Henry of Rheims, was instrumental in the abbey's design and sculptural programs during her time. His work, and that of other stone carvers, involved creating intricate capitals, corbels, and effigies throughout the structure. The elaborate tomb effigies of English monarchs, including Henry III himself, which were created around this period, represent the pinnacle of sculptural art. These sculptures were meticulously carved from precious materials like Purbeck marble, and often adorned with intricate painted and gilded details, showing the skill of multiple types of artists. Eleanor also commissioned master painters to decorate the interiors of the abbey and the royal palaces. The painted chamber in Westminster Palace, though much of its original splendor is now lost, was famously adorned with detailed frescoes depicting historical scenes and figures. These painters, often referred to as king's painters, used vibrant pigments, sometimes mixed with gold, to create elaborate murals that covered walls and ceilings. The intricate designs and narrative content of these paintings required highly skilled artists capable of working on a large scale, contributing to the visual grandeur of royal spaces. The abbey's new stained glass windows were another area of significant patronage. Eleanor and Henry invested heavily in importing skilled glaziers, possibly from France, or supporting native English master craftsmen, to create magnificent windows that filled the abbey with colored light. These windows depicted biblical narratives, saints, and royal figures, constructed from countless small pieces of colored glass held together by lead cames. The creation of such windows was a complex artistic process involving design, glass cutting, painting details onto the glass with grisaille, and leading the pieces together. The luminosity and storytelling capacity of these windows were considered miraculous in their time. Furthermore, Eleanor patronized goldsmiths for the creation of liturgical plate, crowns, and personal jewelry. These objects were not just valuable, they were exquisitely designed and crafted, often incorporating enamel work and precious stones. The meticulous detail and artistic skill involved in these creations made them highly prized. The royal goldsmiths were among the most celebrated artisans working directly for the crown and setting standards for luxury craftsmanship. Eleanor of Provence's consistent and active patronage, particularly for Westminster Abbey, helped to elevate English art to new heights. She brought with her continental artistic influences, which blended with native traditions, to create a distinctive English Gothic style. The master craftsmen and artists she supported were instrumental in building and decorating one of England's most important religious and royal sites, leaving an enduring legacy of architectural and artistic splendor that continues to impress visitors. Her dedication to these grand projects provided sustained employment for generations of skilled artisans, making her a crucial figure in the artistic development of 13th century England. Number 3. Blanch of Castile. Blanch of Castile, born in 1188, was queen consort of France from 1223 to 1226, and of Forny de Forges from 1226 to 1234, and again from 1248 to 1252. A woman of deep piety, sharp intellect, and political prowess, Blanche transformed the French court into a center of intellectual and artistic endeavor. Her patronage of illuminated manuscripts, particularly the monumental moralized Bibles, and her influence on significant architectural projects like Sainte-Chapelle mark her as one of the most influential patrons of her era. Blanche's most iconic artistic commissions were the moralized Bibles, colossal illuminated manuscripts created primarily for her son Louis IX and his wife Margaret of Provence. These Bibles are not mere copies of Scripture. They are vast theological and artistic encyclopedias featuring thousands of biblical and moralizing scenes. Each page contains multiple roundels with intricate miniature paintings, paired with explanatory texts that interpret the biblical passages. The sheer scale and artistic ambition of these Bibles are breathtaking. The production of these moralized Bibles involved highly organized and specialized workshops, primarily located in Paris, which was then the leading center for manuscript illumination. These workshops employed numerous scribes, parchment preparers, and, most importantly, master illuminators and their assistants. The artists worked meticulously, designing the layouts, sketching the scenes, applying vibrant pigments, often including costly lapis lazuli for blues and gold leaf, and executing the delicate brushwork. Each roundel, typically measuring only a few centimeters in diameter, is a complete and detailed miniature scene. The artists were skilled at depicting a wide range of human figures, animals, architectural elements, and natural settings, all within tiny spaces. For example, the Bible Moralisée de St. Louis, now primarily in the Morgan Library and Museum in New York, is a prime example of such a work. Comprises 8 volumes, each filled with hundreds of painted medallions. Colors are incredibly rich, from deep blues and greens to vivid reds and purples, all enhanced by the extensive use of burnished gold backgrounds, which reflect light and give the pages a shimmering, jewel-like quality. The artists were not just illustrators, they were visual theologians, translating complex biblical narratives and moral interpretations into compelling visual forms. Their anonymous status does not diminish their legendary skill and the lasting impact of their work. Beyond the Bibles, Blanche's patronage extended to other religious texts and devotional books. She understood the power of visual aids in religious instruction and personal devotion. Her influence on Louis IX, who would go on to commission the magnificent Sainte-Chapelle, cannot be overstated. While Sainte-Chapelle itself was built by Louis Blanche's regency, and her focus on royal piety and artistic grandeur laid the groundwork for such a grand project. The stained glass windows of Sainte-Chapelle, for instance, telling thousands of biblical stories, mirror the narrative and didactic approach of the moralized Bibles, suggesting a continuity of artistic vision. Blanche also commissioned tapestries and other decorative arts for the royal residences, which were constantly being refurbished to reflect the status of the French monarchy. These large-scale textile artworks depicted historical scenes, heraldic motifs, and religious narratives requiring the expertise of master weavers and designers. These works contributed to the opulence and grandeur of the royal court, providing both warmth and visual spectacle. Blanche of Castile's patronage was not merely a matter of personal taste. It was a strategic investment in the spiritual and political legitimacy of her dynasty. By commissioning such monumental and intricate works, she established the French court as a leading center of artistic innovation. The master illuminators and craftsmen she supported were at the forefront of their fields, producing works that are considered pinnacles of medieval art, leaving an indelible mark on the history of manuscript illumination. Her vision and sustained support created enduring masterpieces that continue to amaze with their artistic quality and intellectual depth. Number 2. Elellanar of Castile. Eleanor of Castile, born around 1241, became Queen Consort of England in 1254 upon her marriage to Edward I. She was a politically astute and commercially active queen, known for her business acumen and influence over her husband. Eleanor also had a significant and lasting impact on English art, particularly through her patronage of monumental sculpture and architecture. Her most famous artistic legacy is the series of Elellanar crosses, a grand and public artistic commission that stands as a testament to her unique patronage. Upon Eleanor's death, in 1290, Edward I commissioned a series of 12 magnificent stone crosses to mark each overnight stop of her funeral procession from Harby in Nottinghamshire to Westminster Abbey. These Eleanor crosses were monumental artistic and architectural statements designed to commemorate his beloved wife and to publicly display his grief and devotion. This ambitious project required the collaboration of numerous master masons, sculptors, and carvers, who were the leading artistic talents of their time in England. 3 of these crosses still stand today at Geddington Hardingstone, near Northampton, and Waltham Cross. Each cross was a multi-tiered structure, typically hexagonal or octagonal in plan, rising to a considerable height. They were constructed from high-quality stone, often intricately carved with decorative motifs, heraldic shields, and foliage. The most prominent feature of each cross was the placement of multiple carved stone effigies of Queen Eleanor herself positioned in niches around the upper sections. These statues, often depicting Eleanor wearing a crown and regal robes, were remarkably detailed and expressive, proving the skill of the sculptors. The master sculptors involved in these commissions included William Torrell, who created the bronze effigies for Eleanor's tomb in Westminster Abbey, and Alexander of Abingdon, who is specifically recorded as working on the stone effigies for some of the crosses. These artists were adept at working with various materials, from stone to bronze, and capable of rendering human forms with grace and realism, capturing the likeness and dignity of the queen. The detailed drapery, facial expressions, and overall composition of these sculptures reflect the highest artistic standards of the late 13th century. Beyond the figural sculptures, the crosses also featured extensive architectural carving, including pinnacles, canopies, and intricate tracery. This required the expertise of master masons who could translate complex architectural designs into stone. The decorative elements also included the shields of Castile and Leon, Eleanor's homeland, and England, symbolizing the union of their royal houses. The choice of rich materials, the meticulous craftsmanship, and the sheer scale of the project made these crosses unparalleled public art installation. Eleanor's patronage also extended to other architectural and decorative works during her lifetime. She had a keen interest in domestic comforts and aesthetics, which led to the enhancement of royal residences. With features like tiled floors, painted walls, and gardens, she commissioned master tilers, painters, and gardeners to embellish these spaces, bringing beauty and refinement to the royal households. For instance, records show payments for various craftsmen working on her specific apartments or chapels within royal castles. The Eleanor crosses represent an exceptional act of royal patronage, commissioning enduring public monuments that were both deeply personal and politically symbolic. The artists who designed and sculpted these crosses were the leading talents of their generation, creating works that have been admired for centuries for their beauty and craftsmanship. Eleanor of Castile's lasting artistic legacy is tangible in these magnificent structures, which continue to stand as powerful reminders of medieval artistic ambition and the enduring impact of royal patronage on public art. Number 1. Elellanar of Aquitane. Eleanor of Aquitane, born around 1122, was one of the most powerful and influential women of the Middle Ages. She was Duchess of Aquitaine, in her own right, Queen Consort of France, through her marriage to Louis VII, and later Queen Consort of England, through her marriage to Henry II. Her long and eventful life, marked by political intrigue, crusades, and the birth of two kings, Richard I the Lionheart and John, also saw her emerge as a significant patron of culture and the arts, particularly the burgeoning genre of courtly love poetry and music, and indirectly monumental architecture. Eleanor's court, first in Poitiers and later in England, was a vibrant center for culture and learning, attracting scholars, poets, and musicians from across Europe. She is renowned for her patronage of troubadours, the lyrical poets and composers who created a rich tradition of vernacular poetry and song in Occitan. Troubadours like Bernard de Ventadorn, Bertrand de Born, and Marcabru flourished under her protection and encouragement. These artists, often of noble or knightly background, themselves crafted elaborate poems, exploring themes of courtly love, chivalry, and nature set to intricate musical composition. Eleanor and her daughter Marie de Champagne were instrumental in popularizing and codifying the ideals of courtly love, a sophisticated literary and social concept. Troubadours would perform their works in her presence, and she would host poetic competitions and discussions. This patronage was not just about entertainment. It fostered a distinct artistic movement that influenced European literature and music for centuries. The troubadours, through their complex poetic forms and melodic inventiveness, were the literary and musical legends of their time. Their works, though often transmitted orally, were later compiled into songbooks, painstakingly copied, and sometimes even illustrated by scribes and illuminators. While direct patronage of specific named architects or sculptors for monumental works by Eleanor is less directly documented than her literary patronage, her immense wealth and influence as Duchess of Aquitaine and Queen of two major European kingdoms. As a powerful landowner, she supported churches, abbeys, and castles within her vast domains. For example, the churches in Poitiers, such as Notre-Dame-la-Grande, which Shanks's elaborate Romanesque sculpture, would have thrived under the patronage of the Duchy of Aquitaine, reflecting the artistic tastes prevalent in her home region. The master masons and sculptors responsible for these intricate carvings and grand structures were highly skilled artists, whose work defined the Romanesque style. Her royal status meant she commanded the finest artisans for her personal needs and the embellishment of her court. Goldsmiths created exquisite jewelry and luxurious courtly objects, and textile artists produced fine garments and tapestries. These artisans were highly valued, and their work reflected the opulence and sophisticated tastes of the royal households. While their names are largely lost to history, their collective artistry contributed to the visual splendor of Eleanor's courts. Eleanor's patronage created an environment where artistic expression, particularly in poetry and music, could flourish and evolve. She did not just fund artists. She actively engaged with their work and influenced the themes and styles they explored. Her role in supporting the troubadours and the culture of courtly love had a profound and lasting impact on Western literature and music, setting trends that resonated throughout medieval Europe. Eleanor of Aquitaine, through her dynamic personality and her astute understanding of the power of culture, stands as a foundational figure in the history of medieval artistic patronage, shaping the very soul of courtly life and leaving an indelible mark on the artistic landscape of her time.